Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of Between Two Beards. As always, I am your host, Rob Schuh. That's my co-host, Randon McMahon. Here we are, the 49ers advancing second year in a row to the NFC Championship game, having sent the Seattle Seahawks home. Oh, that feels good. The Dallas Cowboys gone. Get them the hell out of here. It feels glorious. On to Philadelphia. Randon, how are you feeling in the great state of Texas after that phenomenal victory Sunday?
I'm lounging by the couch. I'm so relaxed out here. I just no, it feels good. It feels good. I was like one of three Niners fans at the bar that I was at. We were thinking
numbers
of going,
were not in your favor.
No, we were thinking of going to Texas Live, and one of our friends went for the Bills game. You know, like to say, hey, like I want to go see both games. I'm going to be here all day.
Right.
Well, I think there was close to, I think he said like 30 to 40,000 people. He might have been drunk and over exaggerating that, but like I know there was a watch party at the Dallas Stadium. They put up this huge screen and you could sit out there and sit at the park. And then Texas Live holds, you know, I think like over 2,000, 3,000 people at that bar. Wild. So they were going to get there. They got there early, and they said all these tables are reserved for Niners fans, or not Niners fans, but Cowboys fans. So
that's brutal.
So it's like
I would expect that. I would expect that level of pettiness.
No, they booked them online already. Like so, all the tables you have to book online to reserve it. Yeah. So I'm like, do we really want to go there? And then like it be standing in the room, and I have to like sit there and watch over some dude's head, which it's not too rough for me. I'm 6'5", but still, like, or do I just want to get a seat and watch the game? You know. So we decided to stay in. I got offered to go to Ojos Locos, which if you don't have them in California, it's like a Mexican style restaurant, you know. And so like, but this was in like the south side of Fort Worth, and I didn't want to get shanked because you have to get patted down to go into that place. So I was like, man, like I'm just gonna stay close to home to the bar that I know and I go to all the time. You know, shout out to Buffalo Bros for always hooking it up good. And so yeah, everything's going good. How about you?
I'm sure that it would have been fantastic to be there at the campus there with all those Cowboys fans, just to see the looks on all their faces as the game began to wind down. But I'm with you, staying a little closer to home. I'm certainly not going to be volunteering to go to the spot wherein you're saying that you're most likely to be shanked. But in going to Philadelphia this weekend, I am subjecting myself.
Entire city.
I'm subjecting myself to that very thing. I will not be shocked if next week we're doing this show and I've just got a black eye here, because I anticipate dressed head to toe in Niners gear that I'm going to get some shots fired, verbal shots fired at a minimum. And I tell you what, like with how much it's going to cost to get into this game, I'm not swinging back. There's no way I'm getting tossed from that stadium. So if I get sucker punched, that's it. Rob's getting laid out, and he's going to take it with a smile and watch that guy get ejected from the stadium after having paid over $1,000 to get in.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Philly fans, but I've heard a lot of bad things where like they throw snowballs with batteries in them to Santa, you know, like damn. You're like, man, like, and I've seen so many videos of just like, you know, just like straight getting pelted with snowballs to opposing fans during snow games and stuff. So, man, who knows what you're going to be in for? But you know, it's going to be fun. I think
it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
An absolute blast. I want to say what's up to those of you that are here in the chat. Always appreciate it. Raphael 562 Niners. He's a sneakerhead here on the channel, always coming in to say hello to everybody and remind you to like and subscribe to the channel. The Stivers Niners 209 show is here, giving love to the Niners. Oregon life in the building. Texas Niner. We're representing our states here. We got Oregon, we got Texas, lockdown, then we got to go across the pond. Kevin coming in from Glasgow. Good evening to both your beards, that beautiful souls contained within, as well as offering regards to all the usual fabulous suspects in the chat. Nikki D, what up, fellas? Jan coming in. Cowboys wanted all the smoke. They got all the smoke. I really do enjoy it. When a fan base comes in talking a whole gang load of shit, I really enjoy watching people pull receipts. I'm not the type to do it, but I'm here for it. So on Twitter, when I see guys like Jason Aponte going back and finding freaking tweets from like October of this year where people were talking trash and rehashing it, I'm here for that. Absolutely here for it.
There's people that have like receipt folders, like different receipts for different fan bases. Like, Jesus.
So they know, they're like, wait, we just beat Dallas. Let me go look for these receipts here. Let me look them up real quick.
That's too fantastic. Much time for me. That's too much time for me. But
no, yeah, I don't have that type of mental bandwidth, Randon. Like, it's hard enough for me to just hold it together. In normal everyday life, I can't be holding on to receipts as well. That's just too much for me. Fazil coming in and saying, hey, you going to Philly, Rob? Yes, I'm booked. I have booked my hotel. I got a sweet little hotel deal going on there. Hotel was cheap. I was like, hell, I can splurge on this because compared to the last minute plane flight, which I don't have any direct shots. So randomly enough, I land in Midway, halfway there, meet up with Jack, and then Jack and I are on the same flight out to freaking Philly. So that'll be nice. I'll have to reserve him a seat there on Southwest. So then just got to get the ticket. Have not pulled. Everyone here knows my deal. I wait until the last minute. But geez, these ticket prices are ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't want to know what fucking Super Bowl tickets are going to be by looking at this. It feels as though inflation has become very real for me in these last few days, Randon.
It's going to be a big one. I looked at it this morning. I was like, maybe I might go. And then I looked at the standing room only. I was like, nope, I'm definitely not. maybe I won't.
It is one of those where standing room only are ridiculously priced. So I'm like, well, you might as well pay twice as much as that and have a good seat. You can't go in and pay $700, $800 for standing room only. Game time is correct. I heard Philly fans are bad. That's what I hear as well. Nicholas Frederico, I want to go to the link so bad. I don't have a seat yet, so I don't know what section I'm in, but I say go for it. I want to make sure that the Niners are filling up those freaking stands, because I'm reading in The Athletic today, Tim Kawakami speculating he doesn't think that it's going to be that full of Niner fans. Ticket sales, only about 20% are coming from California. I know that we're a national fan base and people will come in from around the country, but I am speaking to you, Niner faithful. If you're on the fence and you got a little extra cheddar burning a hole in your pocket, scratch that. A lot of extra cheddar burning a hole in your pocket. I think you should go to this one. It's big. Dustin pointing out, hey, don't let him fool you. Rob's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. Dustin knows I can stick up for myself if need be. I just can't get tossed from the stadium. The 49er fan head-to-toe gear, if he throws a punch, that is it. He is gone, regardless if he is defending himself or not. I may need to get some of the bulletproof clothing as well. All right, we've got other folks in the building. Ryan Sapp, Albuquerque Turkey, One Bad Niner, Chris Hansen, Ian Sharp. Man, it is full. Truth told, not sold. I love all of you in the chat. Martin is here. I will get to those comments that are more relevant for Randon and I to discuss. But first, I want to hear Randon's thoughts.
First, a shout out to what I found out. I told you.
Yes, hit it.
Apparently, my mom, obviously, she's a big supporter of the show because, she loves her eldest son and all that.
God only knows why. God only knows.
And, but she got the entire night crew to start listening to our show. And they used her like as an insider, like Adam Schefter, to see when we're going to be recording and what happened because we missed. So shout out to Cameron Park Bel Air night crew. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Yes. Shout out. Love the fact that they are watching and supporting. Absolutely here for that, man. Here for it. And I appreciate anyone out there that's got my back. You see me out there in Philly. You can have my back then too. Tell me about it. All right. I want to hear your thoughts on it, man. You were there. You were close to the source of all the pain, all those Cowboys fans feeling the dejection after they were, I want to say, soundly beaten. It wasn't a walloping, but physically soundly beaten as they came out to Levi's. What were your big takeaways from that one? What was the big impression that you were left with about the Niners coming out of Levi's on Sunday night?
I just think a lot of the fan bases, as we saw with all the receipts, just thought they were going to come in here and roll shot, right? Yeah. I mean, and I think, this is we're getting playoff Dak now. We're getting that real playoff Dak. He's leveling up. He's going Super Saiyan. Whatever you want to say. And it's like they knew early, like right when that first pick happen, it's like, oh no, this game isn't going to go the same way as it did before. Oh no, like this game is going to be a lot closer than what we think. And funny story about that first pick. We're sitting up there at the bar top. I'm the only Niner fan at the bar top. My brother came with me. He doesn't care. He's just watching the game. So Dak throws the first pick, and I was like, all right, like I'm gonna get a little spicy with this taunt here. and everybody's like chattering, and I go, Dak, you're a fucking bum. You're a bum just like we thought you were. And all the Dallas fans look at me at the bar. This one Dallas fan, he was all decked out in like extra stars and all this kind of stuff like that. His girlfriend in front of him couldn't stop laughing at me trolling Dak Prescott. Never saw her the rest of the game. Never saw her the rest of the game. I think he made her go home in an Uber or something. I didn't see her one time, but she couldn't stop laughing. And I thought it was hilarious. But
that's fantastic.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I just don't think they expected to get hit in the mouth. Like, and I got to give it to Dallas. This game was close. They had every opportunity to win this game multiple times. But the defense came up big, and we've been talking a lot about over the last few weeks is, Purdy's averaging, 35-ish points a game. Offense is humming. Christian McCaffrey this, person that. Everybody, their positionless football. And, the defense, even though they did get worked in the pass game, by CeeDee Lamb, they've done that a couple times now, with Devontae Adams, and then you look at Metcalf and now CeeDee Lamb over 100 yards each, but the rest of the defense didn't break. Like they let their star receiver get like enough, but the rest of the defense didn't break. Obviously, the streak of nothing over 70 yards for the run game, was huge. Who knows if that would have happened if Pollard played the whole game? But I still think that we would have held them relatively silent in the run game. Like the defense came up big, and we've talked about it last week, is that we thought that the winner of this game was going to be the person who won the turnover battle, right? And
yes, absolutely.
Outside of the special teams play, like the offense didn't give up any turnovers, and it was the third phase of the game that gave up our turnover. So overall, like you got to be pretty pleased about how the parts that were on the field the most, showed up.
Yeah, and to your point about, CeeDee Lamb, even with the number of yards that the Niners allowed him to accrue, you look at the rest of the roster, there just weren't that many yards going about. The total passing yards for Dallas, just 206. So overall, they did great. Sure, 10 for 117 for CeeDee, a bulk of that coming on the one deep pass, but held him out of the end zone, right? Which is critical to be able to keep it that low scoring game. I will say that I expected this to be two heavyweight offenses really overpowering defenses by what we had seen from Dallas, by what we had seen from Brock Purdy and the offense and all those skill position players. And it was my belief that both coaches allowed the game to sort of devolve to what it ended up being. Both were comfortable with the old school style of football where it is defense against defense. You tighten up a bit and it becomes, I don't want to make the mistake that loses the game, as opposed to offenses being super aggressive and going out to win the game. I will give credit to Dallas because you mentioned it. We win the turnover battle. We clearly win in regard to penalties that accrued on Dallas versus the Niners. We were the far more disciplined team. A couple of those, I think Dallas fans are upset about, a little bit of the dirty laundry, but that's a part of the game. Even with those mistakes, it was down to the wire. So had it not been for the good fortune of forcing those turnovers and playing disciplined football, this one could have been even closer, could have gone the other direction. I want to ask you, how big of a factor did you find the injuries for Dallas to be? Obviously, the more marquee one being Tony Pollard out, missed the entire second half. But I thought the D tackle going down was another big loss for the Dallas Cowboys. It was the same D tackle that, 99, who I saw charging at Brock Purdy once. It reminded me of that scene from Get Out where the dude is charging straight at him like a linebacker about to kill him and turns at the last moment. I would not be able to make the pass with that huge human being charging at me like that. But I thought it was fortunate because it eroded some of the depth for Dallas along that defensive line, and we really got physical with them in the run game in the second half. Do you believe those were a factor in the Niners coming out victorious?
I mean, you take a weapon like Pollard. I mean, as much as Skip Bayless is delusional, thinking that he's more versatile than Christian McCaffrey, he is one of the better running backs in the NFL.
For sure.
And he's a Pro Bowler for a reason. So thank you, Pedro. He's a Pro Bowler for a reason. And I think that's going to help their team. I mean, you're going to get those explosive plays. You're going to get the ones out of the backfield, and they probably wouldn't have been so much one-dimensional with CeeDee Lamb. That was huge. And listening to a lot of other content creators that study way more film than I do, like they say that the only thing that they really see that Purdy, floats out of the pocket a lot, he is only 6 feet tall. Like he's, so he's trying to see the pass lanes better. And when you take out a big D tackle with long arms out of the center, and he was also getting disruption, through the center of the offensive line, that's also huge. So yeah, there's 2 big injuries, but I mean, you got to play. That's part of the game,
Absolutely.
And as bad as it sounds, you can't say, oh, well, we would have won if they would have stayed healthy, because you don't know how that would have been. But yeah, I mean, you lose your best offensive weapon, in my opinion, in Pollard, even over CeeDee Lamb, because he can do it out of the backfield and, out of the slot and stuff, and a big piece on the defense. That is a little bit of a sucker. That's a little bit of a punch in the gut.
It absolutely is. Rob DeArt coming in with this one. All I hear, Dallas lost. Nobody giving the 49ers credit, like we didn't win. I've heard this a lot, more so from the national media, from NFL Network, ESPN, First Take. Those types of shows are playing up Dallas losing, I think because it generates more activity for them. The reality, in my mind, is very clear. The 49ers came out and absolutely got into an aggressive physical matchup with Dallas. Over the course of 60 minutes, we exerted our will. And in a microcosm of what we've been doing to teams over the last 10 games, we steadily broke them towards the end of the game. Now, I don't think that we actually broke Dallas. I thought we just beat them, and it was close. And if a couple of things hadn't have gone our way, the game may have folded in the other direction. But we did wear them down. And I believe that our roster is deep enough, our talent is special enough, and our style of play is such that we can do that to any team. The key for me going into Philly, not to get ahead of myself, is can we possess the ball enough to do it? But that time of possession wildly swung in our favor against Dallas. It was, again, the first half, Shanahan feeling out Dallas with the offense, trying to find those weaknesses, and finding a few of them and getting the run game going considerably more in the second half. Man, I got to take my hat off to Elijah Mitchell. He looked phenomenal running out there. Absolutely running
outside
tough.
Of the boneheaded play that he made. But
that was I don't get as upset about that as I think some do, for a couple of factors. One, I think it has to be shared blame. Anytime something like that happens, my first thought is, dude, did Kyle Shanahan say something to Brock Purdy so that Brock Purdy says something to Elijah Mitchell, right? It's got to be someone with a cooler head that's prevailing, someone who's not caught up in what's going on. So maybe it's Bobby Turner or Anthony Lynn that then pulls Elijah Mitchell aside. He's a younger player, so was it a mistake? Yes, absolutely. I'm not going to absolve him from it completely, but the much bigger factor was getting that first down. And the fact that he got it, his momentum then carries him out of bounds. I thought he was out of bounds before he really realized it. But I've got to say, yeah, it was a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree with you in a little bit as far as I do think we broke them emotionally.
I like that. Please continue.
I think you look at all of them said, hey, this is the game we wanted. You're constantly having the feeling not only of, I think Parsons takes everything personally, which that might be what fuels him. But being like, oh, like he was going after fans on Twitter, like, you guys don't watch tape and stuff like that. Like,
man,
you know what I mean? Like, and so all this kind of stuff like that. You have Dak Prescott, out there, the darling, and everybody thought he was going to turn the page. He probably thought he was going to turn the page, and then it didn't show up big. Like, if you look at his face in the fourth quarter, when they're going to have to go on these drives to win the game, that's not the face of previous good quarterbacks, where like you see Tom Brady when he's down with a minute left to go, you see his face. It's like Terminator. Like, right. He is laser focused.
Stone cold.
And Prescott didn't look that way. he looked scared. He was already sweating before he got on the field. Like, I mean, like he just didn't look like a guy that thought that his team could win. And so like my thought process was, I think we broke them quite a bit. And to where Dallas is like, this whole thing is Dallas lost this game is because everybody thought Dallas was going to win after the Tampa Bay. Right?
A lot of people picking them.
Betting was in favor of Dallas for a large chunk of Vegas. You had a lot of national media choosing the Dallas Cowboys. And I think it's like you had that kind of phantom game, which we'll kind of get to. But I mean, they did kind of lose this game a little bit, and I think we also did kind of win this game in the second half. We came out and it took it to them in the second half, right? But I think you look at it, Dallas had a chance to win this game, and I'm going to go here with this right here. I think at this point, right? We get 2 turnovers and we only get field goals off of them, right? This game could have been like out of control if you turn those into touchdowns.
Absolutely.
Dallas's defense kept them in this, and
yes, their defense was elite. They were flying around the field, man.
They had plenty of opportunity to keep the offense, to help the offense. And so like, that's where I was saying, like, Dallas could have easily won this game if the offense showed up at all, and they didn't, and you also, then you got to give credit to the defense for the Niners for doing that. But I think you could see a path where the Niners that we've seen in past, where field goals then get, turned back with touchdowns, right? Because we're not scoring enough points off these turnovers. And that could have happened. I mean, it didn't in this game because our defense came up huge too.
Yes.
But
it was a defensive slobber knocker.
You could see the path to Dallas winning in this game based on previous experiences with the Niners of, getting turnovers and only getting field goals out of it, or not converting on huge possessions. But credit to the Niners defense. They showed up.
Credit to the Niners defense. Indeed. They were ferocious. I want to ask you about one more thing, but I got a couple of comments I'm going to bring in before I do that, and we change subjects. JT56, by the way, I respect anyone. At first, I didn't pick you out as an Eagles fan. I thought you just were a fan of a different team and saying the Eagles had a better shot than the Niners in this one. This comment clearly illustrates that you are an Eagles fan, or in the meantime, you have become an Eagles fan over the past 20 minutes, one or the other. I just want to commend, it seems you are being respectful in the chat. I always appreciate that. I like opposing viewpoints coming in. I like being able to bring that up. And if people can stay respectful with that, then I don't have to block anybody. And I love that even more. So JT56 comes in with this comment. He says, we also have the best offensive line in the NFL, speaking about the Eagles, to run behind. A top wide receiver duo in the league. And Hertz at quarterback on top of all that. Makes me think the Purdy-led Niners don't stand a chance. Bold words. I want to go straight from that to a sentiment that I share here, which is Pedro coming in. Pedro, thank you for the super chat earlier. It didn't have a comment. I wanted to make sure anytime I saw a comment from you, I got it up here, and here it is. He says, being the underdogs this week feels good, actually. Yes, it does. I like the fact that JT56 is super confident that the Purdy-led Niners don't stand a chance. I think it's extremely faulty logic that's being used there, but I love the fact that we are the underdogs coming in. It gives a certain road dog mentality that I know we're going to travel well with. And I'm not saying this game is going to tilt heavily in the 49ers' favor. I think this is an incredible matchup between two heavyweight NFC teams. You could not ask for a better NFC Championship game than this. If there's going to be an equal matchup where we come down to the wire and it's one of those nail biters, much like this game was against Dallas, it's got to be between two powerhouses. You saw what Philly did to the Giants. That wasn't a fair matchup. This one feels like, hey, it's going to come down to turnovers. It's going to come down to penalties. It's going to be decided by other factors because these teams are heavyweights.
They are. And the guy before that's not wrong. I mean, I talked about right before he got on here, their left tackle is the only one outside of the top 10 at his position.
Right.
You look at both of their wide receivers over 1,000 yards. I think they're both top 10 in receiving yards in the league. Goddard's not a bad tight end. Like this team lost one game for a reason.
Right.
And so you can't take them lightly. And And the biggest thing that equalizes a pass rush is a rushing quarterback. Like Hertz is a game breaker type quarterback. So
absolutely.
I think he's not wrong there. And like the Niners are going to have their hands cut out for him. Do I think we could win? Oh, for sure. We're going to talk about how we're going to do that. But the Eagles are a juggernaut for a reason. Like they went 15-1. It wasn't a fluke. And in the best division in the NFC. So like, they're loaded.
Yes. There's no doubt about the fact that they are a very good team. And I love the chat that's going back and forth. Sorry, I am reading it as we go, but we'll get into that. Keep that good energy in the chat when we're talking directly about this game. We got a couple of topics that we're going to hit quickly before we get to that. It feels, Randon, like we have finally, hallelujah, gotten to a moment where like Levi Stadium feels like home field advantage. I was there, admittedly. I was there in 2019 for those playoffs. It was lit, man. It was fans were pumping the stadium. The reason I hate Levi so much is because they put in all the corporate shit, right? They put in all the bars. They put in all the things that take people out of the seats and into the building. Like, what are you doing? You paid how much money to go to a game and you're going to sit in the bar instead of at your seats watching the game? It blows my mind. That is, to me, it just boggles the mind. But it's all about that cheddar. It is all about that money. It's all about those VIP tickets that go to people who, some of them are hardcore fans, but a lot of them are just people with a bunch of money who then go to games because it's cool to go to games and they want to be seen in the bars and they want to take advantage of all the high-end perks and stuff like that. So it did feel like in 2019 you had those vacancies. And for the playoffs, though, it filled up quicker. People were in their seats. They came back right after halftime. And I got that sense again this year that it seems to be improving. The etiquette of the fans in the building is better. The energy in the building is better. The percentage of fans that are Niner faithful is phenomenal. We don't allow opposing teams to come in and buy us out like SoFi or Las Vegas or some of those others. Are you noticing the same thing in what you're hearing from people anecdotally and what you're seeing on the big screen?
So, I mean, I got to give a shout to Locked On 49ers because they had a story about it, and the guy from Locked On Cowboys said that like the atmosphere at Levi's was way better than the atmosphere at Jerry World.
Let's go.
And that it almost made him want to get rid of his season tickets in Dallas and just go on road games and see the road games there. So, I mean, I think you look at a lot of fans and the way they've written about it that have season tickets or the way they go there. You know, you're looking at, hey, like when they built the stadium, they built it so fast. It just kind of felt like moving into a new apartment.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly like a new apartment because it felt like, cold and gray like a new apartment does.
Yeah. Now they're getting more artwork. They're getting more the museum with all the Niners gear in it. You're getting fans, are chanting after every first down. They're starting to get their own chants. Like you look at like big college atmospheres, like in Michigan or LSU, like they have all these big chants. You look at across the pond in the Premier League, they're nothing but chants. Like they're nothing but fan interaction. And
they have more coordinated chants. We're not very coordinated in the Bay Area, apparently.
But that comes with more games. That comes with building it. That comes with
history.
Somebody thinking about it in a stadium and having that been lived in, right? And then when an apartment starts out, it's barren. You start putting your own stuff in it. You start getting the artwork like you see on the wall. You start doing all those types of things. It starts to feel like a home. It starts to feel like an environment. And I think that's what you're starting to see. And what helps with that? Winning. So so now that the Niners are winning, more fans are wanting to go. All these traditions can start being built. Yeah. And I've heard that. I mean, I know for a fact Oakland A's have some of the best tailgating in baseball. A lot of the fans are from the similar area, right? They love their tailgating, they love getting out there. I mean, the Niners embraced it when they built the stadium. They wanted the Niners fans to have that tradition that they had at Candlestick. So, I mean, you're looking at a stadium that's starting to get an identity, and when you have a little bit of identity, you start getting a little bit of advantage. It starts to feel like home. It starts to feel like a place that you want to play or don't want to go into, and I think that's what they're starting to build it.
And some of the things that you don't even think about, but Tim Kawakami did a great job in an article painting this picture. Some of the things that you don't consider in providing a home field advantage, but the players learning the stadium such that when they get excited, when things happen, Jimmy Ward knows where he can clear the fence and do a Levi's leap, right? They know where to go and high five the fans. They know how to interact with the stadium itself. All of that adds to the lore, and winning certainly helps. 4-0 in the playoffs in between 2019 and now. Fantastic record. Now you can expect winning playoff football from the Niners. And we just wrapped up a 10-1 record at Levi's. 8-1 in the regular season, 2-0 in the postseason. That is tied with 13 other teams for the most home victories in a single NFL season. Obviously, we got the advantage of getting that 9th home game, and it still is a record, and it stands for Levi's. All that said, Randon, I still agree with Albuquerque Turkey. Why couldn't they have just built a new stadium over Candlestick and have the Niners play at Stanford Stadium until it was finished? Even though Levi's is a good stadium and it's generating its own buzz, man, I would really like to be at Candlestick Point, my friend. Okay, this next topic is absolutely teed up by our super chat, Randon. Isn't it glorious when that happens? Mm-hmm. When someone like Roberto Davis comes in and just wins like that? I love the way he phrased this. I'm actually jealous of the way in which he phrased it as opposed to my poor phrasing for this topic, because this is eloquence. This is what it's about. Styles make fights. Can't wait for this 48 rounder. This tees up what I'm talking about here in this topic. One of these things is not like the other. What you hear from the Eagles fan who is being polite in our chat here, what you hear from a lot of folks that are picking the Eagles to win is, well, look at what just happened up against Dallas and compare that to the way in which we played Dallas or the way in which we kicked the Giants' ass. And those two things make me think that the Eagles are going to walk all over the Niners. But that just completely fails to appreciate the way in which a fight, a game, breaks out. Because once a game starts, it takes on its own unique characteristics. And as I was describing earlier, the way in which this one shook out, it became very tight. And both of the coaches went back to more old school playing styles, allowing defenses to really rule the day. And that was punctuated by Dallas punting inside 49ers territory instead of going for it. I believe that this game dictated the outcome. And when we go on to play Philly, I'm not saying that it's going to be a win or a loss right now. We'll get to our game predictions. But what I'm saying is it's going to be completely different, right? It's going to be a different freaking game that has very little to do with the one we played against Dallas because it's two different squads with two different matchups.
Yeah, games have a way of adapting to themselves. So I thought this was going to be a higher scoring game. I have a feeling the next game will be a higher scoring game. But what Niners have done a great job of, and I would say DeMeco Ryans in particular, is adjusting from the first half to second half.
Unbelievable adjustments.
And I think this team, this has been the best year, both offensively and defensively, where they've made adjustments. Because there's been so often, especially even last year, where you're like, okay, whatever we're doing isn't working. And Kyle Shanahan will come back out of the half and do the same thing again. You're like, what are we doing here?
Right.
Like we were one of the worst third quarter teams in the NFL last season. Right.
It was painful.
So, like this year, it seems so different. And not only from a defensive standpoint, where I think for a stretch, like we shut out opponents for like 3 straight games in the second half or something like that. But I mean, you're looking at, how do I put this? You saw a clip in the game against Dallas where Debo was like, hey, George, are you going to put us in your backpack? Are you going to put us in your tool bag? Like you're carrying us this game. Let's go, boy. Like you got this, you know? And so it's like whoever's hot or whoever's taking advantage of it or whoever's doing this, like it's their game. Like, let's go. Like, you know, every person on that offensive side of the football knows that Debo can take over a game, knows that George can take over a game, knows that Ayuk is going to get his 5 catches for 90 yards. You know that Christian McCaffrey is an absolute weapon out there, that Elijah Mitchell can just pound them into the ground. Like they have full confidence in this entire team. And I think the adjustments, along with the fact that there's so many ways they can beat other teams, just leads to this vast reservoir of confidence that they have. that no matter where they're at halftime, they can make that adjustment. Whether the Eagles come out hot and they're down 14-0, they have the firepower to come back. Whether they come out hot, they know they have the defense to keep that lead. Like it just really is. I think they have the absolute confidence in themselves, which is what you need in order to win a Super Bowl. And I think, not saying that the Eagles don't have it, I think that you focus on what you do have in your own locker room. And as we've found out from many players, not only on this roster, but people that have come and left, Niners have some of the best locker room and roster composition and amongst in the NFL. And I think that goes a long way.
Absolutely. The chemistry in this cast of characters is phenomenal. And you watch it play out on the field. You read about it in stories afterward. And I know that writers are always adding a certain level of hyperbole to stories and they're taking poetic license. But when you hear the conversations that took place in the huddle, Aaron Banks finding a voice and getting people fired up, Juice talking about looking around in everyone's eyes and seeing that fire, looking in Brock Purdy's eyes and being shocked by the fact that he sees that level of confidence from a rookie who seems to be unfazed by that moment, just shares that steel gaze with everyone else. And the halftime adjustments is a critical call out because Shanahan really did struggle with that last year. Great memory in pulling that back out and pointing that out for us today. It's been phenomenal this year. Trent Williams talked about it. Matt Barrows did a phenomenal piece. He interviewed Trent Williams way after the game, Sunday night, right? Says that, hey, it was after he and Bosa get out of the hot and cold tubs way late in the night. Talks to Trent Williams. And Trent says, yeah, man, we are feeling them out in the first half. We're running plays that aren't necessarily designed to score. They're designed to tell us what an opposing defense is going to do in response to that play. Give us information. And then from there, we're going to adjust. Now, the hope is that you're scoring along the way, that the plays you're calling not only beat the defense, but they give you that future tell as well. Against Dallas, they were hemming it up to begin, but Shanahan is making that mental note. And I love hearing that inside information from players who very clearly respect the phenomenal football mind that is Kyle Shanahan, because it's fun to watch when he is in his bag and he is cooking. And for the most part in this win streak, he has been, certainly with regard to the second half adjustments, even in a game like Dallas where the offense wasn't shining.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. In this game against Philly, you're going to have to make adjustments.
Yes.
Because, you're looking at, we've been talking about, the key receiver for the team, taking advantage of it and scoring over 100 yards. Well, they have two key receivers, right? They have a linebacker that, he ain't going to get past all pro Fred, but he's going to be effective at tight end, in Goddard. And then you have Hertz that can run all over the field. So, you're going to have to make adjustments. And yes, you got to assume that Philly's going to make adjustments as well. But with what I've seen from D'Amico Ryans and Kyle, I think I no matter where the game sits after the second quarter, I'm going to be confident in a Niners victory because I know that they are going to make an adjustment or at least put us in the position to either come back or hold on to a win. By the way, Roberto Davis gave you a shout out for the Motorhead shirt. He thinks it's Malthead. Sick AF, my man. It's Malthead. It's a beer. It's a beer supply company. Oh, even better. It looks like Motorhead, but it's about beer instead. I'm sure he's a fan. I'm a fan. Thank you, Abby, for getting me that shirt. Yes. Phenomenal. I was going to ask you one quick question, and it completely escaped my mind. Just poof. Evaporated. Yeah. Evaporated, my friend. It was one of those that was a quick hitter, and it's gone. Chris Ray comes in with the super chat to save us. Niners ready for a rumble in Philly. Let's go. I've started to now yell these all caps, Randon, so I apologize if I blow out your eardrums. I've already transferred from one side to the other. I'm giving them each ear equal opportunity. Yeah, hearing loss on both sides. You just really want to keep it in stereo, You don't want one side to really get blown out and the other. Then you're just hearing everything in mono, and that's not good. That's not good. All right, Jaguayo56 coming in with the super chat as well. Rob, would you defer if we win the coin toss? Yes, absolutely. I am putting that defense out on the field first if I have the chance because I want the ball in the second half. To Randon's point of the phenomenal halftime adjustments that we're going to make,
I'd much rather that our offense, when it's more efficient in the second half, have that extra possession. And I also love Shanahan's ability to do that double dip that Bill Belichick is so familiar with, where you score 3 or 7 points in the last 2 minutes of the half, and then you get the ball. You can flip a game. You can seal a victory. A lot of times that plays heavily into your favor. So, yeah, I'm definitely deferring. Randon, what would you do in that case?
Yeah, you need to defer. And you saw it in the Cowboys game. I mean, I don't know if it was because of the Cowboys getting the ball in the second half, but you look at down the stretch. I mean, Kyle was pretty conservative with his play calling, not trying to go for the touchdown before the half, just saying, hey, we need to get 3 points, keep this keep this knotted up. And instead of being down at the half, we're knowing that the Cowboys were going to have the ball.
Yes, indeed. And Joey Mellon's coming in. Go Niners, take my money. Take my money. Joey Mellon, sneakerhead here on the channel, just there in support. I appreciate you. And Pedro, I appreciate you as well. Hope that you have a nice evening and can watch the rest of your show at your leisure. That's the beauty of coming back to YouTube later, to hit that like button on your way out. Okay, this one flips for us, Rand, and this was our advantage coming in. And I thought it played a factor. 2 extra days of rest for the 49ers. Home field advantage, did not have to take a flight, hadn't left the West Coast since God knows when. It's been forever since we've crossed the Mississippi. And yet, here we go. We got to cross that Mississippi. We got to fly out to Philly. It's going to be cold. It's not going to be that cold, though. It's actually colder here in Portland than it's going to be in Philly for that game, like mid-40s. That's freaking sweatshirt weather. Like, come on. That is not that bad. The Niners are looking good, but Philly now gets 1 extra day of rest. They get a very brutal home field advantage in Lincoln Financial Field because that is a violent, loud, ruckus place to play. And the Niners have to fly cross country. How big of a factor do you think this is? Are the Niners rested enough that it doesn't matter, or does this play into it?
As they should get that advantage.
They should.
The number 1 overall seed.
They earned it.
They earned it. That's why you play the regular season games. All you Cowboys fans.
Great point.
Crying out there.
Crying.
If you wanted home field advantage, win more football games.
Win more in the regular season.
Yeah. So, man. Yeah, I think it is a home field advantage, right? I mean, you said Niners fans, I mean, every single game we went to at least was 40, 50%, on the road, right? I mean,
absolutely.
We went to the Falcons
Red
games.
was traveling.
Yeah. And so now it's at 20%. I don't know if all the fans don't have the money after the Christmas holiday to fly and buy. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be advantage there. It's going to be cold. I think you're looking at the advantage there, with the weather and the extra day's rest and at home. I mean, when's the last time that the Eagles went on the road? I mean,
been a little while,
like week 17 or something like that. I mean, so like they had the bye week, then they play, they're still at home. And it's been almost a month of them being at home. I mean, that's got to be an advantage there, being in your own bed with your families and everything like that. I mean, you got to love that. But the Niners go on the road during the regular season. I don't think it's going to be that much of an advantage. I think the fact that the fan base normally travels very well and can take over a stadium as far as the vibe when the Niners start pushing. And if it's 80-20, or are we really going to be able to make that much of a ruckus to kind of light the fire if we need to?
Be prepared for me not having a voice when I'm back on this show, Brandon, because of that 20%, one of those heads is this one right here. And I am going to be doing my damnedest. I will say, so I'm with you. It's obviously an advantage for the Eagles. It's nice to stay in your own bed. It's great not to put those miles on your body. It allows you to recover better. Swelling, isn't increased by that time spent up in the air. A lot of things are positive for it. You don't have Philly fans trying to poison your food for the last couple of nights before you go out there and play. I'm sure that there'll be a fire alarm at the frickin' team hotel that the Niners play at. Like, dirty tricks abound. And when you throw in, I saw someone in the chat say, yeah, I was at a Philly game and saw a guy in the urinal peeing on an opposing fan. Like, this is the level of respect that is happening here in Lincoln Financial Field. And the Niners are going to be feeling that as well. They'll get barraged with hate from the stands. All of that plays into it, but it also steals a group of men together. And to your point that you made earlier in this program, where you talked about the cast of characters that the Niners have, the personalities in that locker room, I think certain teams actually get a little bit stronger when they're up against the wall, when they're faced with adversity. And I view this 49ers team as that type. They also have what travels well in the playoffs. It's been said since the dawn of time, defense and run game. Those things travel well in the cold, in opposing stadiums, you name it. And the Niners have those in abundance. They absolutely have the number one defense in the league. And they will show that again against Philadelphia, making it tough on that offense, even though it is a very talented offense. And we have a run game now going against a Philly team. When we talk about key matchups, we're going to be talking about that run defense. So it does feel like the Niners can overcome that. It's been too long. We got to get into this game about Philly, but a couple of comments. I did not know this. Bo Shaka says, Rob, did you notice that Debo's streaming now? No, that means we got to get him on this program. I feel like that would be his first stop, would be Between Two Beards. Debo, right between two beards. We could find a way to put it right. It'd be spectacular. And we got Kevin coming in with a random question here. We're taking this. Would you trade 5 seasons not reaching the playoffs for 1 Super Bowl? I'm assuming what you mean there's 1 Super Bowl victory. And the answer to that is yes. But in general, I don't subscribe to that. In general, I'm not a championship or bust guy. I believe that meaningful seasons, getting to the NFC Championship game last year after we started horrifically 3-5, that absolutely was a victorious season, regardless of whether or not it ended with a Super Bowl victory. But when you talk about getting that 6th Lombardi, I've been chasing it for so long that I would give up a lot to get it. So yeah, I'd trade 5 losing seasons to get a 6th Lombardi. But I'm happy with Kyle Shanahan, the fact that we are in our 3rd NFC Championship game. Randon, how do you feel about this one? Are you a Super Bowl or bust type of guy?
Well, that's the goal. I mean, if you're telling me I'm guaranteed, a Super Bowl, like if this is like a genie wish,
right?
Then yeah, yep. This stop watching football for 5 seasons, and then the 6th season you get a Super Bowl, right? I mean, it is what it is. You just deal with being terrible.
Game time,
like
drink more. You have more free time in those 5 seasons. Reality,
and but no, I mean, yeah, you ultimately want to win, but you're looking at it something along the lines of like, yeah, it's also more disappointing, like, because you're losing in the biggest games, but you're playing games now. Well, you're 1 of 4 teams still playing games. You're not talking about the draft. You're not talking about, which the Niners, by the way, don't have a pick until like the end of the 3rd round. So outside the top 100. So like, if we're talking draft, we're talking obscure players that we're going to have to go deep dive for. It's not like, hey, who are we going to take, Lance or Fields?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be something different. I think obviously you want to win, but there's something to be said about the dynasty type teams, or the teams that have been good for a long time. You look in the Bay Area, like the Warriors, baseball, the Yankees of so long, or in the 90s, the Braves, where they won like 15 straight division titles.
It's spectacular to have that.
Like that's over a decade of winning culture. Like that's what
that attracts free agents. That gets you fresh coaching minds. Like that just becomes a perpetuating cycle, right? Where people are attracted to that culture of winning. By the way, JT56, you had me until you tried to make this argument. Philly is the number 1 defense. Come on now, 3rd most sacks of all time. JT, let me first say it's spectacular what they did with sacks. That's ridiculous. To accrue 70 sacks in a season, phenomenal. Tip of the cap. Hats off to the Philly defense. They are a ferocious defensive unit. However, to then stretch that into them having the number 1 defense, I think we all know many other ways to measure a defense other than total sacks. And in basically every other category, you're looking at the Niners. The most important one, obviously, being scoring. That's kind of the name of the game. But I digress. I just had to answer it. I had to go to it. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the key matchups against Philly. What are the biggest things you're looking for in this one, Randon, come Sunday NFC Championship game?
I mean, the Phillies defense is good. They're just not number one. I mean,
they're real good.
Yeah. So, I mean, just in a couple of ways, the Niners are better. Turnover differential, positive 13. You have expected points off of the defense. Niners are at 67.78. Third place or fifth place is the Eagles at 24. So over 40 better. We've allowed less yards. We've allowed less points. So I could keep going on and on there, but yeah, I mean, their sacks, you got us there. Your sacks are there. Congratulations.
Yeah, gotta give it.
I thought the Niners would be up there. We just didn't get a lot of supporting from the supporting cast. It was all Nick Bosa all the time.
Speaking of which, we could be down. I'm not going to touch that topic, but certainly could be down Charles Omenihu in this one. That would be a loss. Thankfully, you do have Drake, who can be elevated, hasn't been elevated, but would be able to fill in, and Kerry Hyder obviously would have an increased role there as well. All right, so what do you see as those key matchups going in against Philly? You want me to start with the first one here?
Yeah, you throw yours out first, man. You're always interviewing me. Come on.
I defer to you because, you're just the more charismatic of the two of us. No, my first one here is Jalen Hertz versus the 49ers pass rush. This one, it gives me fits just thinking about it, because you look at the game last year where he was a less polished threat, and he had the game-high 82 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown against the 49ers. We have historically struggled against quarterbacks who are the mobile variety. Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, you name it. We have certainly struggled against them. Lamar Jackson, when we went out to play them in 2019. And it's because those teams and those quarterbacks are able to use our aggression against us. I thought it showed its head ever so slightly in this game against Dallas, where it was the 4 down rushers, and Fred Warner had Dak Prescott hemmed up. They were closing in around him. It was right before the Jimmy Ward deflection to Fred Warner interception. The play prior had him hemmed up. Fred Warner leaves his rushing lane to come around the backside and sack Dak. Had he gotten around, great decision. He didn't. That rushing lane opened up. Dak scrambles for the first down. Now, on the very next play, Fred Warner totally redeems himself and picks it off. But it does illustrate how we struggle. And Dak Prescott is no Jalen Hurts. So that one to me is a big one. If he rumbles off 60-plus yards, I think that is absolutely trouble for the 49ers.
It is a huge matchup because you look at, like we said before, the Eagles' offensive line, all of their members besides their left tackles rated in the top 10 at their position.
Yes.
And so the pass rushes, or the completed pass rushes, are going to be few and far between. And then when you get close to getting to the quarterback, you have a quarterback who is one of the most effective runners in the game. And so it's definitely going to be limiting to the Niners defense, to where if you happen to stop A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith in the secondary, and you get close to a sack, you still have a quarterback who can negate all the coverage and great pass rush that you did on that play by just his athletic ability. We saw it in the first game with Justin Fields, who has a similar skill set.
Right.
I mean, and like there
Marcus
was
Mariota, we had some good seats to that one.
Multiple times in that game where it's like, okay, that's a sack. Oh wait, no, he does a little scoot to this way, little scoot that way, and it's 40 yards down the field. So that is going to be tough. And I don't know how D'Amico's going to scheme that up, if it's going to be a spy, if it's going to be, hey, we'll just take it if it hits us in the mouth, but we ultimately can't just like, hey, take somebody out of the field. I don't know what they're going to do, because
you think Warner and Greenlaw have the speed required to, if we have the appropriate game plan, you think they have the speed required to shut down Jalen Hurts?
Warner does. Yeah. I mean,
I believe they do. I think it is scheme.
It's not a straight line speed, right? It's angles. It's angles, and they can do whatever they want, and they're one of the better tacklers there, and he's a smart guy. Speaking of Fred Warner, I love that where in this last game, it was Dak trying to throw us off sides with like a little fake count, and he goes, "You're not going to get that with me." He pointed him out, like just pointed across the line, started smiling. I like that.
That was a great photograph, man. That made for people used it for all sorts of storylines, right? They didn't actually take it in context, but I love it anyway. JT56, hey, I appreciate your contributions, whether or not you're rooting for my team or the opposition. Good content. He says Bosa versus Lane. Looking forward to that one. Trent versus Reddick or Sweat. Going to be some amazing matchups. Absolutely. Nick Bosa he's been fairly quiet as of late. He's still, in my opinion, influencing games tremendously, but opposing teams have come in with solid plans. And the reason I say that he's still imposing his will on games is because teams are having to completely adjust what they do to contain him, and that frees up areas for other players who have then stepped up and made plays. Again, the Charlie Omenihu, whether he plays or not, will be an intriguing one for me because he's one that had been excelling on the field up until this off-the-field incident. I would say the next one for me is going to be the obvious one that Niner fans are hanging their hats on when they say we've got a fighting chance in this one. And it's Christian frickin' McCaffrey and Elijah frickin' Mitchell going up against Philadelphia's rushing defense, which is very much middle of the pack. Feels like the obvious weakness to attack. Is it so obvious that Philly's just going to sell out and attempt to stop the run? How do you see this shaking out? Are we going to be able to run on Philly the way I expected us, honestly, to run on Dallas, and we did not?
And we're going to have to. I mean, the one of the the old tried and true, the 80s football, you run the football, you control the clock, you control the game, no turnovers. That's how we're going to win this thing. But with the high-powered offense that Philly has, you got to assume, and the fact that the Niners have been burnt multiple times for big plays.
Yes.
Across the season, right? It was the bend don't break, or hey, we broke one time, we're not going to break the rest of the game type thing. But in order to limit that kind of stuff, you're going to need to run the football and be able to keep Hertz off the field as much as possible.
Yes.
And capitalize on any drive that gets in the red zone. So yeah, I mean, we're going to have to run the football. I mean, Eli Mitchell out rushed Christian McCaffrey last game as far as in touches. I'm sure you're probably going to see that similar in this game. McCaffrey's going to get a lot of stuff out of the backfield. I think that in the Dallas game, they try to do a lot of trickeration stuff that Dallas covered very well. I don't know if they're going to go to a more straightforward approach. Probably not because it's Shanahan, but I don't know if they're just going to try to see if they can overpower that defense in the run game. But it's a huge matchup because when you have a clear advantage in one aspect of the game, which I think you could make a point that either team has the advantage in a lot of other facets, but this one's pretty clear cut. You have to capitalize on that part of the game.
Yeah, this is the biggest, there are, to your point, there are places where Philly has the advantage. There are places where the Niners have the advantage. This one is the biggest delta, the biggest gap in between a team that has performed at this level versus one that has struggled at this level. If the Niners are going to win this game, it feels like this must be the area that they aspire to take advantage of, getting that vaunted 40 carry game. I mean, you go back to the Washington Commanders and I saw Tom Jensen pointed out, hey, it was 4 turnovers that skewed that game. It was, and it was also running the ball like crazy. And I believe in running the ball and in that physical nature, that's how we begin to break these opposing teams, to that topic we hit earlier. And I think that was great of you to call out that, yeah, physically we may not have broken Dallas. That game didn't break wide open, but emotionally, I think that we did. That was a fair argument you made, and I'm here for it. And the other piece that I'll say is that ability to run the ball takes care of that first matchup that is the nightmare of Jalen Hurts. Best way to defend Jalen Hurts, keep his ass on the sideline by possessing the ball for longer. Keep your defense rested in this one.
This will be the first real test for Hurts, I think. Right?
First real big defensive test that he's going up against this season.
I mean, Dallas has a good defense, but
Dallas definitely does. In that first matchup, it was, Dallas loses that one 26-17, right? It's not like it was a blowout in that one.
I just think you look at it from this point of view is like, okay, yeah, they went 15-1 all year. The pressure started getting more and more, but there was no really pressure down the stretch for Hertz to cinch it out because he was injured.
Right.
And then he came in the last week of the season. Yeah, he had to play well. But you look at the game got so out of hand with New York, there was no pressure in that game for him. Right. I mean, after the first quarter, I think it felt like that was an easy win. Like, what is he going to be like as a player when he's in Philly, where fans can turn on you instantly? Where is it going to be? Where is it going to be? Like, what if the Niners are winning by 7 in the fourth quarter, where like all the pressure is on him to win. This is his first crack at that, right? Didn't make the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And really gonna have to go to the situation. Is he gonna have that first situation of, oh crap, like this is a big moment. Am I gonna be able to rise to the occasion? I mean, I know he had a lot in college, but this is the NFL. And so we'll see. I mean, Purdy's had 2 of these moments so far, right? Like, and he's actually, he played the whole last half of the season was a pressure moment for him, being in the position that he was in. I kind of wonder if he's going to be able, I don't know Hertz as a man. I don't know how he's fared this season. I don't know what type of interviews he gives or any of those types of things.
Yeah, my impression is he's a pretty good leader, that like he comes across polished and pretty poised in those moments.
So we'll see. We'll see if that's really the case, if it comes down to a slobber knocker at the end of the fourth quarter.
Going to be a real test of that's for sure. I like between these 2 comments, one from a Niner fan, one from an Eagles fan, it gives us a great way in which the Niners can approach this. NYC 1030 coming in to say, I feel screen passes and the middle of the field is going to be Philly's Achilles heel. Feel that their linebacker is the weak spot, and we could take advantage of that. JT56 says, hey, you got to run outside on Philly if you're going to run the ball. Cox, Hargrave, Ndamukong Suh, and Linval Joseph are in the middle, big, stout dudes, as well as Jordan Davis, who takes up 3 gaps himself just by standing there. The good news for the 49ers is they do have those players that are capable of getting around the edge. In particular, a man named Deebo Samuel seems to be pretty good at those outside zone runs. I think we will see that. The last matchup, and I want to get your opinion on this because it's not a matchup that they're going head to head, but I feel like it is true for both of these squads on offense that they both have 2, you can make the case, 2 legitimate wide receiver ones. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk could be wide receiver 1 on any team in the NFL, right? I mean, you could take them onto a team that doesn't have a Devontae Adams or a Stephon Diggs, and either one of those players is going to become your number 1 receiver. And I think that's true for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith as well, as indicated by A.J. Brown was the number 1 wide receiver for a different team and is now over there for Philly. So between those 2, who do you think is going to do more damage? Who are you more impressed by? Who's the better wide receiver duo between the 2?
I think Philly's got the edge in that a little bit. I mean, it's just from being a pure wide receiver
I was
group.
Just going to qualify by saying that pure wide receiver.
Per wide receiver group. I mean, Deebo affects the game in so many other ways,
right?
That you have to quantify it based on your eyes and that type of thing. And I mean, I think just like going out there and playing and making a play. I mean, you're looking at Charvarius Ward hasn't been as locked down as the beginning of the season. He's a big body wide receiver, which he's used to in Metcalf. And then, Lenore's been playing with a huge chip on his shoulder. He's keeping receipts of fans, like he's going out there and throwing fans under the bus saying, hey, like you thought I was going to be a scrub, and he's getting these interceptions. But Philly throws the ball downfield. We've seen Hufanga get burnt on a couple times, playing super aggressive. I think it's going to be DeMeco Ryans is a good matchup versus the Philly pass game, because I think that's the matchup that I would like to see. And I know that Shanahan's going to move these guys around. Ayuk's going to get his, Deebo's going to get his, and any of those guys can take over a game. But as a team, I mean, the stats speak for themselves this season. I think they have 2 receivers inside the top 10 for receiving yards. Their pass game has been a whole lot better than ours. Yeah. And it's just, but as far as like how he affects the game, Deebo, that X factor that he brings by lining up in all these different positions and what he can do. I mean, I think that's the X factor that maybe brings it closer than a lot of people think. But from just a pure wide receiver standpoint, Philly's got some dogs out there, man.
They do. And I think you nailed it. If you qualify it as, hey, we're evaluating between the 2 pairs as pure wide receivers, you got to give the edge to Philly. Have to. But if you do take into account the way in which players impact the game in their totality, I would make a strong case for the 49ers duo. I would rather have Deebo and Brandon Ayuk than A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, in particular within this offensive scheme, right? It's all about how they work paired with everything else that you're doing. So Phillies are fantastic because of being paired with Jalen Hurts. And his ability to extend plays, their ability to get downfield, his big arm, all of that works together. With what the Niners are looking to do in their run game and positionless football, Debo and Brandon Ayuk are a far better fit. Brandon Ayuk as more of the pure wide receiver, but with the ability to run block at a level that most wide receivers are incapable of. And obviously Debo, we all know that he is that offensive weapon and not just a wide receiver. So that one, to me, you have to frame it in a certain way and you get two different answers. But nod, tip of the cap, obviously, to the Eagles in this entire matchup, but those two wide receivers. I want to bring in Tom Jensen.
You can make a case. I think you could make a case for receiver, like a receiving unit, like the receiving ability as a unit, like through running backs and tight ends and all this kind of stuff like that. I think you could make a case that the Niners are better in that aspect.
And bring in Jawan Jennings, Ray, Christian McCaffrey, Juice, when you add all Kittle.
Yeah. Because you have so many different weapons on where you could go. I mean, Goddard's a good tight end, but he ain't Kittle, right? And McCaffrey's probably the best receiving back in the NFL. And so when you're playing positionless football and you have all these guys that move around all the time, and Juice, like you said, I think the Niners as a unit are a better receiving team. You just have two horses at the front of that chariot that is the Eagles that are just, the stalwarts there, and they can take over a game. Both of them can.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring in Tom Jensen for our last key matchup. I like this. Hargrave versus Burford worries me. Have to control the interior. It'll be fascinating. Interior pressure has been an issue, an Achilles heel for the 49ers in previous games. If that comes out, it'll be interesting to see whether the Eagles are making a concerted effort to get Brock Purdy to roll bail to his left as opposed to allowing him to roll out to his right. Definitely interior pressure has the ability to jam up our pass game, no doubt about it. And obviously hem up the ability to run in the middle there as well. All right, let's talk about our game predictions in this one. We've talked about what the key matchups are. How's it going to unfold? Are the 49ers going to have success? And are they going to win this one? And if you're feeling it, what the score prediction is. Admittedly, I do not have a score prediction yet. I am willing to commit to a win or a loss, but I need to sit on this one a bit more, and I'm going to give my score later in the week. So I'll free you up, Brandon, to do as you please on this one, obviously.
It feels sickening to pick another team to win a game, so I can't pick the Eagles, even though I have a feeling that's where it's going to go. But I'm going to say if the Niners execute the game plan that we've been talking about, running the football, no turnovers and everything like that, I'm thinking 28-27. I think it's gonna be close.
Boom. I love a prediction like that. I will be dying in the stands if it is that close, but in hog heaven at the end of the game. Those are the games that are heart attacks while you're in them. They're miserable while you're watching. And then the sense of relief that washes over you when the final frickin' whistle blows, like Green Bay. That game in the playoffs last year, I was like, oh, God, yes. I mean, you could go back and watch the video of me making those strange sounds in the frickin' stands there at Lambeau. It was just like a release of pent-up energy and fear and all of that had been building throughout that game. I think you're on to something with how close this one is. It's going to be one. You got, by the way, Beast Mode Gaming coming in with the super chat. Can't wait for the Eagles. Wook. Yes, wook it up. I'm liking Peter Lee here. 23-20 Niners. I like your prediction. 28-27 Niners. Beast Mode Gaming coming in. I got 21-17 Niners. Again, a lot of close predictions. I'm going to bring in Tom Jensen for his keys to the game because Tom always has a very informed view. Tom and I have had the good fortune of sitting and breaking bread together. Good dude. And I just want to bring this in prior to giving mine here. It says, Rob, San Francisco keys to offense, run, and yak pass all 60. All right, so I'm thinking it's got to be I can't make that one out. Move the pocket. I do agree with that. Milk Jawan Jennings versus their third cornerback out there. Red zone touchdowns. Can't be settling for those field goals. Tom, you and I are in alignment on that. I'm also in alignment on the run and yak yards needed. Just didn't dissect the 60 in there. And then keeping a clean game. All 60 yards there of yak, potentially?
No, all 60 minutes.
Oh, all 60 minutes. See, Randon, this is why I need to have your genius here in the pod just to fill me in on these things. On defense, create fumbles. I haven't done a great job of that. Gang tackle and chop. Attack the ball at the RPO mesh point. Have to win enough on third and less than 5. That's been a tricky down for us. When it's third in an obvious passing situation, the 49ers have done well. I totally agree with the aggression of attacking the mesh point. And I will add to that, cannot get overly aggressive in our pass rush. Got to be fundamentally sound in those lanes. When we are, our players have the length and ability to execute and contain the quarterback. If they get too aggressive and try to rack up those sacks, it just ends up backfiring against us. That aggression gets used against the Niners. I don't have a score yet. I do have another super chat. Beast Mode Gaming, Sneakerhead here on the channel. I'm ready for another killer heart game, man. Let's fucking go. I am too, and that's what this one's going to be. I'm predicting that the Niners are going to win this one in a close matchup. I will give my score prediction later on this week. I absolutely think that it is going to be close, and I do believe that the Niners are pulling it out this week, and I really hope that's the case, because either way, Randon, going out to Philly, I am going to be extreme in my emotions one way or the other. It is either going to be a very happy Rob Schuh or a very, very sad version as well. And yes, Jan remembers me going crazy after that Green Bay game. I'm so glad I have that on film so I can go back and watch myself just being a complete idiot out in the cold in Green Bay.
I love it.
Absolutely. All right. This was a fantastic show, Randon. Again, why are you in your living room area as opposed to your normal viewing area? Were you doing some sort of another podcast this evening that viewers may chime into?
Wow, man, you threw that to me like Purdy to Christian McCaffrey right there. I like it. Yeah. We were doing a live show. Hockey Royalty was just watching the game like, you see other people do, like Barstool and all that. We just watched the game, giving our insight. Fans asking us questions about not only the game, but a personal life, just kind of chatting it up with people in the chat, just watching the game together. So Kings pulled out a win in OT. A nice snipe by Kevin Fiala. Now we're tied for first place in the Pacific. So it was a good game. And so, yeah, it was nice. It's a lot more comfortable and closer to my television on my couch than it is where I normally record.
Plus, if you're going to be going for a multi-hour stream along with, comfort is key, man. You can't be wearing it out on a desk chair. No, you got to be lounging, and I like it too. It's got a good vibe to it.
Yeah, and I just want to, hey, all you fans in the chat or watching, go subscribe to Hockey Royalty. I know you guys might not be LA Kings fans. Just help a brother out. You've been watching us for over a year. We need to get those subs up over 1,000. Whether you watch us or listen to us or not, it would definitely help us out. I really appreciate that.
Yes, please go there. Check it out. All of the links are down below in the description of the video. Show that support. Hey, it is hockey. It is sports. It is supporting one of your fellow 49er faithful. All that information is down below in the description of the video. Fazil coming in. Couldn't agree more. Amazing show, Rob and Randon. Beast Mode Gaming, I appreciate the concern for my health. He says, please wear some vests, Rob. I'm hearing some crazy things. Hopefully I make it back from Philly, but just know it was worth it no matter what. And Martin, maybe I'm stopping by your house before the game for some jalapeno poppers, some nachos, some Smoky Joes, and some chiladas. That sounds freaking delicious. And I'd like to know what more people are eating game day. Maybe we'll have that on one of the shows later this week. Randon, as always, a pleasure having you on here. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. Good sir.
Appreciate it, brother. Have fun in Philadelphia.
I most definitely will. Another nod to JT56. Appreciate you being here in the stream and just being a civil representation of Philly fans. I can only hope that I run into more folks like yourself when I end up there in Philly. Somehow I doubt that is going to be the case. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I will be back later this week. Tune in on Twitter and on YouTube to find out when. And until then, cheers, faithful.